The Nerd Academy podcast is released weekly at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, available on our website at www.thenerdacademypodcast.com and wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also help support the show by going to patreon.com/The Nerd Academy podcast, where every donation allows us to bring you more exciting content every week.
Good morning, class, and welcome back to the Nerd Academy podcast, your source for nerddom news and commentary. I am your host, local Kwisatz Haderach, and Isan Al-Ghalib, Jared the Dark Jedi, Bachman Stubbs, and if you guys didn't see on Twitter, got a very, very special, I guess normally applies to someone who's outside of like the Nerd Academy like environment. You know, they're not in our little podcast YouTube biome, you know, our little revolving door of people. So I won't say guess, but riding shotgun with me, co-hosting with me for, I think, if I'm not mistaken, for the first time since Star Wars Celebration Anaheim in 2022. Joel Basin back.
It's been a while. It's been quite a while.
I was on the phone with Joel the other day. We were talking, just catching up. And he, right before we ended the phone call, was like, "Hey, you're doing a Dune review, right?"
I've been so excited for this movie for years. But yeah, I wasn't expecting to be on the podcast. It's been so long. It really has.
Yeah, you've been med schooling.
Yeah, I have excuses, but none of them I suppose valid enough to justify my disappearance from the world of
oh no. That's not true. You got a lot of other stuff going on. I'm lucky enough that the way my schedule shakes out, I'm able to do this at least once a week. But yeah, very happy to have Joel on. I joke all the time that you and I are the people with the most appearances on the show.
Yes.
Because there has not been a single episode of the show that does not feature both of our voices.
And I don't think you've missed a single one, have you? Because if so, then I would have held the record. If you ever get sick and someone has to fill in for you.
Yeah, if I ever decide to like let somebody else pinch hit,
I think I'd trust Spencer.
I trust Spencer. I think the thing that I think would be was funny. The thing that I would want to do is if I ever have somebody pinch hit, I'm going to do all the booking. Like I will from my sick bed, like book guests.
Yeah.
It's like I'm not well enough to record, but I'll ghost produce this and then do all the back end stuff. But I will like
you would never have your hands off entirely.
I'll never have my hands off entirely, but just to be funny. Like I would set up an episode that's like just Spencer and Scotty.
Yeah. That'd be fun to watch.
Leave Spencer to his own devices to see how easy it is to corral somebody from the Bombad cast. I'm gonna tell you, it's not easy. It's not easy. It is not easy in these Bombad streets. Little bit of housekeeping. If you guys have seen our social media, you already have known this, but I'm going to reiterate it here. In fact, I'm going to pull the post up so I can show you guys right now. This coming Tuesday the 12th. Tuesday the 12th, we are doing our Versus Series Season 4 tournament. Now, the way this works, you guys will go to our Twitter, our Instagram, our Facebook, whatever. We have it posted on everything, on our TikTok as well. We have it posted up everywhere. You will go. You will save a copy of this here bracket. Has on there, stream on the 12th. You will fill out your bracket. If you would prefer to not have to write on the bracket itself, you can just write out each outcome you predict. Just to clarify here, so Going down the middle here, Vader, Darth Krayt, Mace Windu, Luke Skywalker, Darth Sidious, Exar Kun, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Darth Bane. These all have bye rounds. So this means they're already in round 2. So whomever wins between Kanan Jarrus and Kyle Katarn will go on to face Darth Vader. Between Lord Vader and Lord Starkiller will go on to face Darth Krayt, etc., so on and so forth. Get those brackets in as soon as you can. I think the cutoff is going to be Tuesday before the stream starts. So get those sent in. Again, we have the rules here. The most accurate bracket will win some free TNAP merch. So fill out that bracket. Make sure I have your email. Send it to nerdacademypod@gmail.com. Before I said you could also DM it to us. But being able to DM accounts that you're not mutuals with has become kind of dicey, both on Twitter and on Instagram. So just to make sure I don't miss anybody's, email it to nerdacademypod@gmail.com with the subject line versus bracket to have your bracket in contention. And yeah, you'll be able to win some free TNAP merch if you have the most accurate bracket. I'm very excited for this one. And if time permits, we're actually going to be doing a second versus bracket stream at the end of the month, right before my birthday. We did one last year. We did a Jedi Council March Madness tournament, which was a lot of fun. It spurred a lot of argument. Those of you who were there will remember Alden Diaz convincing the panel that Yaddle would beat Anakin Skywalker. It is on the long list of things that I still have beef with Alden Diaz over. This is twice now. He went on one of Eli's bracket streams and he got somebody over Anakin over there, and he did it to us here. So we're just going to keep Anakin away from Alden. We also got this terrifying masterpiece from Charlie Ashby of the Imperial Senate podcast when he made this horrific Photoshop of Shaq T. It's going to let everybody marinate in that because it's about a year old. Joel is so unhappy right now. Y'all did not see.
There are certain things I didn't want to see in my life, and I don't think that was ever one I wanted.
Is this the first time you're seeing Shaq T?
That is the first time I've seen that. That is honestly hysterical and amazing at the same time.
It's a banger. But yeah, go back and watch that last stream from last year, the Jedi Temple or Jedi Council March Madness stream, and be sure to submit your brackets versus bracket in the subject line to nerdacademypod@gmail.com. So far, there's only one person with a bracket submitted, and we have like 4 or 5 days left. So get them in there. I want to give y'all some free TNAP merch. So yeah, very, very excited for that. Other piece of housekeeping, if you are new to the channel and have joined us after my recent appearance on Star Wars Explained, hello. Very, very nice to see you all. Welcome to the Nerd Academy. To those of you who did not see, I was the guest on the Clone Zone, the Bad Batch after show that the Alex and Molly Damon put on over at Star Wars Explained. I was very graciously invited on to guest for this most recent episode. We'll be recording our own episode of KNR about this episode, hopefully this weekend, fingers crossed. But yeah, so if you're new here from Star Wars Explained, hello, thank you for joining us. And if you have not seen that yet, go back and watch my conversation with Alex and Molly. It was a lot of fun. They were making fun of me for my very bad drawing. I can't see.
You should just go for that. No, but honestly, Alex and Molly, great crew. We're grateful to be able to cooperate with them. And yeah, it was great, right?
Yeah,
I enjoyed watching it. I was on the sidelines for that one.
Yeah, I couldn't read the chat. I could not keep up with the chat. I saw our dear friend Scotty Holiday. They were flirting with me in the chat, and I did not see anything that they were saying. It was not until at the very end when Alex was doing the hey, tell us where we can find you and what you do, and I was like, oh, Nerd Academy podcast, Knights of the Nerd Republic, Epic Confrontations, Ionized Bastards, and I'm just listing all these projects I'm involved in. And that's exactly what Alex said. I don't know if you saw that part, but Alex did the when do you sleep? Yeah. And I was like, there was one point where the Nerd Academy podcast had 5 shows going, and I hosted all of them.
Yeah. Yeah. When they were talking about that, I was like, what we haven't done in a while? We haven't gotten the whole crew together for like a campus life in a long time. And I don't know if you'd be interested, but I feel like that would be quite the experience.
I'm on the fence about campus life these days. On one hand,
last one was in 22, I think.
last one, I think it was 22 or 21.
Mm.
Campus Life can be fun. Like there are some banner episodes of Campus Life. Like there was the infamous "Is a hot dog a sandwich?"
It's a hot dog sandwich.
that
That's
just
so
devolved
funny.
into a screaming match. Um,
You put me and Levi in a room together. I mean, that's pretty much what you're gonna get.
yeah. Yeah, there was that one. There were some funny ones. Campus Life at the end of the day just devolved into all of us just complaining about how much we hate our jobs. And I don't know if it was good radio. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if it was good radio.
I don't know if it was good radio, but it might have been entertaining to at least some of us. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know if you're one of those people out there who are so particularly interested in our lives and the show. We are so grateful that you're a part of this. But this started out as something that was really something passionate that we all wanted to be a part of, regardless of who was listening. And that was one of those shows where we were like, you know what, I'm having fun, so that's what
Yeah.
matters.
There was one of the funniest. It's twofold funny for me. One of the funniest moments on Campus Life was the very beginning of the pandemic, and we all decided that drinking Corona on the show was going to be funny. We all thought that was a great bit. And then Levi and I, not knowing that it was deeply problematic and racist, kept making Kung Flu jokes. Because and it didn't occur to us that like it didn't occur to us that like the joke is it's from China. Levi and I both, after the fact, were talking about how the joke is it's kicking people's ass.
So
And
yeah,
the
so
racial under
it didn't,
completely flew over our heads
and it
until
didn't
we
age
realized
well at
no,
all.
no. I don't think everybody's ever brought it up, but then
No,
he and I both were like, "Oh man, I didn't
yeah.
realize that's what that was supposed to mean." We
If you need an official apology, this is it. It was ignorance, and unfortunately, ignorance isn't a great excuse.
No, I just we both felt silly about it. I think it's come up before where I've been like, "Yeah, we didn't mean it like that. We thought we were getting our asses kicked." But
Yeah.
it was an entertaining episode in hindsight. Because we're like, "Oh, that's cancelable," and that was a dumb joke with the Coronas. But but all of that to say,
It took us what, 5 minutes to devolve this conversation?
That's record time for me. Joel, when you are plumbing away in the dunes of Arrakis
Yes.
and you're trying to harvest that spice,
Mm-hmm.
it's nice to come back to Arrakeen and just kind of wash away your troubles after a long day farming spice.
I actually do. It's Sunday's Bloody Marys, everybody.
Yes, it is. Sundays Bloody Mary has the most badass Bloody Mary accoutrement in the Imperium with their 3-time award-winning spicy Caesar mix, as well as their mild and traditional mixes if the spice ain't for you. Ayo. And if you want to get your freak on and garnish that bad boy, I say the same thing every time, and it just occurred to me now that I had all the time in the world to come up with a spice pun, and I didn't.
Listen, if they didn't come out with a specifically Dune-themed spiced Bloody Mary, they're missing out on an awesome opportunity.
Truly. But if you want to get your freak on, you can garnish that bad boy with their 3-time award-winning pickled dilly beans, okra, and asparagus, and salt that rim if you're feeling nasty. If you guys want to get your hands on some Sunday's Bloody Mary, use the link in the description down below and use the code TNAP, TNAP at checkout to get 10% off your order and help out your favorite nerds while you do it. All right, so that was some good banter up top. I like some good banter. Our dear friends, Alden Diaz and Ken Knapsack over at Anytime with Ken and Alden, wonderful talk show they do weekly. I watch it every week, live on Fridays at 2 p.m. Eastern. They were joking about how apparently these youngins don't like up top banter in their podcasts.
They just want to get right to the meat.
And I think that takes so much of the personality out of podcasting.
You can skip. You can always skip if you're not here for it. You can get to the meat of it. But this is how we get to know you. You get to know us. So.
Absolutely. I love it. I live for the banter. I live for the pre-show banter. Sometimes it's my favorite part of the show. But
Absolutely.
we are here. We're talking Dune Part 2. We never got around to doing a Dune Part 1 review when it first came out. We wanted to. I also just want to make one thing abundantly clear. I have the blessing of Mike Doling to do this show without him. He was not
Good.
able to get to the theater. You were afraid he was going to come knocking on your door.
Yeah. I was like, listen, I know he's a hardcore
Joel's like,
fan,
I'm
too.
here. I don't know where Mike's not here.
I got so many texts from people, even Josh Almond.
Yeah.
He texted me about it. He was like, dude, amazing. It's 10 out of 10. We'll talk about it, but
yeah, that's why we're here. But we didn't get around to doing it. I just, quick off the top of our heads, Dune Part 1, I think is incredible. I rewatched it going into Part 2. My girlfriend had not seen Part 1. No, it is incredible. And I don't know, maybe it's because I'm still kind of coming off the high of seeing it in the cinema in a crowded auditorium. To the point where I said this on Twitter when I tweeted coming out of the movie. This might be one of the single worst theatrical experiences I've ever had, and this is still one of the best movies I've ever seen.
It was so good that it outweighed all the bad.
Yeah, it was so crowded. I was late to getting our tickets, so we were all the way at the back.
Ugh.
But it was IMAX.
In advance, baby.
It was IMAX, so I wasn't worried about being in the back. So I could live with where we were, especially on an IMAX screen. But we were directly below like the Jagunda speaker. So like every single action beat was like just taking a flashbang to the face. It was so loud, which I normally appreciate that kind of thing. But with how much like sound design is in this movie, being directly beneath that thing just rattles your brain. I think I got a concussion. I think Dune gave me CTE. And then there were so many people. This was the hottest I've ever been in a movie theater. People are always talking. Every time people are like at the movies, I hear them complain, oh, it's so cold. Oh, it's so cold. Oh, it's so cold. I was soaked in sweat. I don't want to be gross. I was sweating through my shirt. At one point, and it felt like I was seeing it in like 4D, because there came a point where, I'm not kidding you, I'm sweating so much, it's just running down my face. And it happened like within like 2 minutes of each other. On each ear, I had like a bead of sweat land like right in front of my ear hole. And I just like felt that like right in my ear. And I'm like, oh God. Oh man, I'm on Arrakis. Oh shit.
Yeah. Really, you shouldn't be complaining. This is 4D after all. You're right.
Yeah, it's the most immersive theater experience of all time. I'm sweating my balls off watching Dune.
So I'm sorry though. That makes it tough, especially when it's 2 hours and 46 minutes long, and you're saying,
it's a hell of a movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like I said, like this might be the single most uncomfortable I've ever been in a cinema, and I still was just fully enraptured by this movie. So Joel, how are you feeling coming out of it? This is also going to be a fun conversation because this is a like film guy who loves movies, who's always been fascinated by Dune, talking to somebody who's read Dune. So
so you just to be clear, you haven't read the book.
I've read about the first half of the first book, and then I kind of got to the point where I realized, because I wanted to read the book before the movie came out.
So you read all of the exposition, and then you stopped.
The last specific, I say about half. I got a good way in. I don't remember exactly where I stopped. I know I made it further past this, but the last thing I like clearly remember reading is the scene where the little robot tries to assassinate Paul. When they first get to Arrakis and they're first like setting up an Arrakeen.
Gotcha. The little drone guy.
Yeah.
Gotcha. I don't know the name of it, but yes. I can't think of it right now. So you're also just so FYI, you're talking to someone who's now been studying all day and now can't form a comprehensive thought 90% of the time. So it's okay, but we'll get there. My thoughts coming out of the theater though, I was just stunned. I was speechless. Coming, like you were saying, I have read the books. I've read up through I'd say about 90% of Dune Messiah at this point.
Okay.
I just haven't sat down for that last like 20, 30 pages yet. But coming out of the theater, of course there were a lot of things going through my mind of like, okay, here's scenes that they didn't put in, and me weighing whether or not that was important enough for me to be upset by it, you
Yeah.
know? And at the end, I settled on absolutely not. They did what they did. I think there were certain creative liberties, if you will, that were but that's the worst it got for me. Where I was like, but all the substance was there, and it was done in such an amazingly theatrical way
Yeah.
that. And I went to like what's called a Max Cinema here. I think that's what it's called. It's called MXC. I'm assuming it's Max Cinema. It's essentially the Dolby Theater here. So like the
Okay.
recliner seats and the subwoofer underneath. And I was just enthralled by the entire movie the whole way through.
No, I mean it is incredible. It is epic in every sense of the word. Like this is an epic. You know,
Mm.
this is
Oh yeah,
Lawrence
it's
of
up there.
Arabia. This is Return of the King. This is,
Mhm.
you know, it is that level of just awe-inspiring
Yeah,
epic cinema. Um
something we haven't had in a while. I don't believe, at least in my opinion.
I think it's very much like a point of view thing. I think that there's like certain flavors that we've gotten, you know, like I would argue like I would argue that the last big movie moment, like moment in cinema, I should say, that was like this was probably Avengers Endgame.
Okay, yeah, I'd give that to you.
Where it was
Yeah,
like this is a movie that almost like goes beyond talking about it like it's a movie. Now, granted, a lot of that with Endgame is because like it is the culmination of like
yeah.
20 other movies. But that's
Because
what I'm
it's part
saying.
of
Like,
such a big group, it kind of brings it down on the epic stage in my book. Just a
well, I'm just
little
saying,
bit.
just in terms of scale,
Yeah.
you know, it's, you know, Denis Villeneuve's vision is incredible. You know, I think if there's one thing that, again, I say this to somebody who hasn't read the books, but I understand like what has been changed. One of the things that I think is very brave of him are the things that he's tweaked, are the things that he's changed.
Mm,
You know,
mm.
like the whole idea that like Aaliyah,
Aaliyah, is
Aaliyah,
how I pronounce it.
that the whole idea that Aaliyah is still in the womb. I think that was an
Okay.
inspired choice. And a really
Oh.
cool Hail Mary. Okay, so I'm assuming this is the one thing that you kind of had a gripe about.
It's one of them. It's one of them. Yeah.
I think that was his inspired choice.
Yeah.
Um,
I'm not, like I said, I'm not too upset by it, but continue.
well, the reason I really liked it as a choice was that I think he made an interesting decision by choosing to let this story be mystical and continuing to lean into that idea. And I think that allowing Aaliyah to be this
Mm.
psychic consciousness from the womb communicating with Jessica and Paul,
Well,
like I think it
here's the
really
thing though,
enhances
that
this almost biblical feeling
Mhm.
of the story.
That is in the book. Like, that's not something
Yeah,
that is necessarily unique to the movies. It's just the duration of which in the movies is longer in the storyline. Like, I don't know. Like, I haven't. It's been a while since I've actually read the first book. It's been over a year, I think, now, since the last time. And I'm really positive there were like at least 5 years. At least 5 years are missing from this movie,
yeah.
where
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean,
Paul
he
goes to
keeps
the
her in the womb.
south.
Yeah,
Paul has a kid with Chani,
yeah, yeah.
and
Later the second, right? Yeah,
Later the second grows up with Alia, and none of that is in in the movie. And like, I'm this is clearly a spoiler. Like,
yeah. This is a spoiler cast. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay,
You let that ring out. Yeah.
even book spoilers, okay.
Um, if we want to talk book spoilers, we can save that for a section towards the end about like what to expect. So I try to tread lightly with the book stuff for now.
Okay. All right. There's a lot that happens. I'm just leave it at that. I'm just leave it at there's a lot that happens in that section of the book, and it's very important to the development of Paul. But I understand.
If it's something that happened in the first book, go for it.
Oh, first book.
It's
okay.
Yeah, if it's kind of implied that any of that stuff is
okay
off the table now.
So Leto II dies.
Yeah.
During the battle of Arrakis, the Battle of Arrakeen, right? There's so many things that we'll start here. Okay. I don't want to get carried away, but I understand that if you're going to remove that character from this part of the movie, I understand why there's absolutely no reason for you to have Alia have been born. And as a consequence of that, another thing was changed. The fact that Alia wasn't born means that Alia didn't kill the Baron. And in the book, Alia kills the Baron.
Yeah. I was going to ask if that was another thing that you had feelings about. It
was so satisfying in the book. Whenever kid, this 5-year-old, 6-year-old kid who's like grown, just like because of the whole Bene Gesserit thing, right, where she adopts all the memories of, which they didn't really emphasize how much of a I'll call it gross negligence that was emphasized within the book by the other Bene Gesserits within the Fremen societies. They were really upset by it. They said one thing about it in the movie.
Well, they do the "what have we done," but they also, I think how off her goddamn rocker Lady Jessica is in this movie.
I think
they make it very clear that we fucked up. We made a mistake.
They don't make that. I don't in my interpretation of the book, they don't make that as a distinction where they're like Lady Jessica is fully within her mind the whole way through the book. And in this, she's just talking out loud to her to Alia, but it's more of a psychic thing in the book, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm remembering correctly. It's more of a melding of minds rather than a overtly verbal thing.
Well, I didn't know how soon the first Star Wars comparison was going to happen. God. I kind of interpret it as something not necessarily similar to, but in the same neighborhood as the Force Dyad.
Okay.
Kylo Ren and Rey, where it's that they're very much connecting in a profoundly psychic way. It's just that occasionally Jessica, again, because she's kind of out of her mind, she is of sound mind in every day. She knows what she's doing. She's making choices. You have to be out of your mind to be making these choices. But she knows what she's doing. But she's still consciously she's talking. I think she knows she doesn't have to open her mouth and say words to communicate. And like I said, I think it's kind of forced dyad adjacent as a concept, the way it was framed here.
Well, it's a lot of. I'm sorry, this is not a detail my brain's remembering, but I can't remember, but I don't think even Paul needed to have a form of translation of that information. I'm pretty sure Paul, because of his prescience, had the ability to understand what she was thinking as well, but that might be a bit of a stretch. I can't remember.
Yeah. Well, that's very fair. And I like I said, I don't maintain the connection to the source material that you do or that a lot of other people do. Obviously I can relate to it. I know I've spent the better part of my nerd life and the better part of my podcasting career screaming to the heavens, please God, stop making Batman kill people. So I understand. I understand. Please just read what's on the page.
But like I was saying, I don't understand how, like, rather I do understand. I don't think it was that big of a deal for me to go like, oh, that change was something like that was the end of it. You know, I can't, like, that was the last straw or anything like that. You know, it was just different. And I still have a list of other differences that we could go through at any
Well,
given point. So
I'll bring this one up. Um, I can truly say,
mhm.
and again, obviously, I'll be going into the book knowing that it's different because I do plan on going back and restarting Dune and at least trying to get through Children of Dune. That's my plan.
Mhm.
Um, had I just been reading it going into the movie, I think I would have checked out on Chani as a character if they had not had her be like, "Yeah, fuck Paul." Because I really love the way she turns her back on Paul here. I think it puts such a great button on the tragedy of his fall, or his ascension. I guess you can look at it both ways, you know,
Mhm.
his fall into becoming, you know, this monster, but also his
He
ascension.
officially becomes the Messiah, I think, in that moment. You know,
Yeah.
like
I
he really
think
takes
he
it
and
on.
yeah, well, all right, I'm gonna kick this hornet's nest and jump right in. I think the thing I love the most about this film is its relationship with the concept of the Messiah.
Mm,
You know, um,
mhm,
because we as the audience, we know that the very idea of the existence of the oh damn it, I said it earlier and I lost it. The Al Gaib. Um
the Lisan al-Gaib.
Lisan. I always forget how to say the first one. The Lisan Al Galib. You know, like we know that this is something that the Bene Gesserit have like actively been seeding into the minds of the Fremen people. You know, and this complex relationship with prophecy, and that, you know, what what does this mean? What is this? Is any of this, for lack of a better term, valid? You know, you have this entire culture of people who have been primed to expect a Messiah. You have this kid who's lost everything, who is being actively pushed towards it and trying his best to resist it, but eventually gives into the temptation. Um, you know, that it's just it is so fascinating. And again, I don't know how different this is from the book to the movie. Um, but I think the thing that makes Paul so delightfully sinister, um, once he accepts the Messiah um, title and role, is that he knows the groundwork that has gone on to casting him as the Lisan Al Galib. That he
Mm,
knows, like,
mm.
so many people think I'm supposed to be this, is that when he eventually makes the choice to take that title for himself, you know, that I again, like, you know, it's the whole thing with like Frank Herbert was like, y'all didn't realize Paul was the villain, and then he had to go and write a whole ass book about why Paul's the villain. You know, that I think it's so fascinating. And again, I can't say this from experience, um, but I do love the ways that like there is a sinisterness framed in him, and so much of that is thanks to Timothy Chalamet's performance that is just unbelievable.
So, if I may, I just want to try to reframe that thought just a little bit. I'm not. I understand where you're coming from. I just don't think the terminology you're using. I think it's putting him in a box that is constraining to his character development.
Okay.
Um, so the thing that you have to realize is that first, he doesn't accept himself as the Lisan al Gaib until he becomes fully prescient. Okay. One of my gripes in this movie is that they did not do a good job at the poison scene. Okay. It was, well, one, tears. What the fuck? Okay, get out of here with those tears. Never needed the tears. Okay, that was simply to bring Chani into the prophecy for her own whatever bullshit. Okay,
so that she could reject it while he embraced it.
Yeah, it was a self-serving thing that they did to get to a certain point in the plot. They like, this is where we want Chani to be, so we're gonna have to do this prior. That's how I see it. My point is, though, that scene in the book is so much more profound. I wish I had it prepared ahead of time. The phrasing is essentially, if you can wrap your head around slowly becoming able to tell the future, and then all of the sudden being able to see every instance in time simultaneously existing at that moment inside of you and outside of you, to the point where you no longer know what is real. You no longer know what point in reality is where you are. Like, that is the level of prescience that he obtains, to the point where he goes, oh crap, there is this. Now this is where they bring us back to the book. There's this narrow fine line that we have to tread, or all the Fremen, everything they've sacrificed for centuries doesn't matter anymore. Like, they will all be massacred. Like, that's where we're at. Okay, we're at, you're all massacred, or we travel this fine line, and that fine line is the only of all the possible futures. That fine line that you have to travel, the only way to get through it is for him to become the Lisan al-Gaib. So it's not that he accepts it in a sinister way. He doesn't have any intentions beyond the Fremen and their salvation and their survival. At that point, when you get into Dune Messiah, that's different. That's Dune Messiah, and that is the book that goes and discusses the contradictions of a Messiah complex. But in the first novel, that's not the emphasis. At least that's not how I see it. But I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, well, I mean, and again, this is a byproduct of, like, you know, the collective discourse around it, is that, you know, I went into Dune knowing the whole conversation about, you know, the reason a second book exists is because Frank Herbert was like, y'all, Paul is not the good guy.
Right.
Paul falls. Like his ascension is a fall.
Well, no, it's not that the ascension is a fall. It's that once you have the power, it corrupts. It's not only just power corruption, but it's also about how, I hate to use the phrase like a fallacy of a messiah, or like the danger of a messiah complex. Like, messiahs are inherently dangerous because of undying fealty, if you will.
Yeah, you create an infallible Godhead. You create an infallible Godhead figurehead. You know, like, right. you have Stilgar, like, fully, like, kill me so you can be in control. Kill me so you can be in control. Like stuff like that, where, like, you have the Fremen, like, and it's something that I saw.
Yeah.
I thought about this, but I can't remember who it was, but they put it very succinctly, but it was a parallel that I loved, is that you see, like, the Fremen, like, that they culturally, because, you know, obviously it's a mix of necessity with how much a precious resource water and moisture is, but that necessity being integrated into their culture with the whole, like, them harvesting the water from the dead, their own dead, their fallen enemies, and that you see them doing all of that. But by the end of the movie, after they have fully committed to Paul's like jihad across the galaxy, that like they're burning bodies, that like the Fremen have fully mutated into something they weren't when he
there was
first showed up.
also a parallel there that was really beautiful between the burning of the bodies of the Sardaukar and the burning of the bodies of the Atreides.
Yeah, that when this, and again, and I think that also feeds into Paul, consciously or not, willingly or not. I think that I have a lot of mixed opinions about Paul. I think a lot of people come down on him as there's like conversations about like the white savior trope within media in general, and how that really doesn't apply to Dune, because the point is that what he's doing at the end of the day is wrong. But
it's not supposed to be black and white. Just FYI, like,
well, yeah, of course, it is very nebulous, and that's what I'm getting at with
that's
Paul.
what makes it so relatable, though, as a story.
Yeah, but that like with Paul, like it's not. I'm not going to say that I give Paul a pass or like oh yeah, I get it, man, kind of thing. But like you're also dealing with somebody who has all of these bizarre expectations. That like how could any of this not culminate into this? It's the same way that like I've seen people endlessly online comparing Paul Atreides to Anakin Skywalker, and I'm like, you got the wrong member of that family. That's Ben Solo. That is like, yes, like they both share, this prophetic, divine character arc, in The Chosen One with Anakin and all that. But like this idea that all of these expectations that, you are that like, maybe you're the Kwisatz Haderach. That's, like you're the guy Bene Gesserit, so we might as well, see how this pans out, and we're gonna have all these things floating around. That it's like in the same way that I always talk about Ben, where it's like you have these dual expectations, where you are the descendant of one of the greatest evils to ever run rampant across the galaxy, but you're also the descendant of the great heroes who defeated him. And in Paul, aside from the Harkonnen Atreides joint lineage he has, but that whole idea that like there is so much riding on him that it's like, of course, it breaks his fucking brain. How could it not? And then you end up with somebody who has all the makings of being, for lack of a better term, a fantastic cult leader, who is able to mutate the Fremen. Again, like that whole idea of them going, and again, what you were saying about, the Sardaukar burn the bodies of the Atreides, and then the Fremen burn the bodies of the Sardaukar. But that is a fantastic parallel that, kind of shows the cycle of violence. But again, that idea that like by the time that Paul is completely in the driver's seat, how much the Fremen culture has already been bound to his will, that they're not doing this thing that was incredibly sacred to them, to the point where like Stilgar freaked out when Jessica was like having like morning sickness. He's like, oh no, oh, when she throws up, that like they've come so far from like a pregnant woman throwing up kind of sucked for Stilgar to, oh yeah, burn those bodies. We don't need that moisture. Fuck them. That there is such that profound danger in the Messiah as a concept, that again, like when you have a Messiah leading a holy war, anything is justifiable. Anything is justifiable.
Well, so another thing to consider is that burning of the bodies in the end of the movie. I don't remember that happening in the book too. Like I love the emphasis, and I love that Denis Villeneuve is really trying to make it right on the cusp of, or rather as gray as possible the whole way through, because the beauty of these novels, the beauty of the storyline, is that there is no putting Paul in one category. There is no putting the Fremen in one category. There's like, you could do that for everything in this story. It brings out in us such contemplation of the complexity of these ideas, and that is why this book needed to exist. I feel like it was it came to fruition through all this inner turmoil of our society, and really puts it on the stage, for lack of a better term, but yeah, I think we could write many college theses on like the different dichotomies that are at play within the book, whether it's messianic, false prophets, political unrest, just war, jihad, like all these kinds of things, sacrifice, salvation, and I mean, there are a lot of biblical parallels that you could read into this. For the sake of brevity, I won't get into it. But I was having a number of conversations about that already.
Yeah, so. I mean there is so much of, and it's something that I do think warrants being talked about. That like there's so much of the Abrahamic stuff across. Like there are motifs and ideas that are kind of plucked from those big three of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. That like there is so much there that I think like
so much
blending them into this like space super religion. Like it creates a whole lot of just thematic and motific ideas that again they are just so incredibly dense, and dense in the best way, like dense as a compliment. I, like many people, I know people have said this for a while with the first Dune, and I do agree with this a good bit, that I do wish that the casting of this movie across both entries like reflected more of the cultures they were pulling from a little bit. That's always something that Hollywood can do better with. There's one of those things that it's better, you do better, you build upon. But no, I do want to take a moment real quick, and I just need to call attention to who, like, Greg Fraser, man, fuck me. One of the best cinematographers working right now. Like I need so badly for one of the 4 Star Wars movies that are in development right now. I need at least one of them to have Greg Fraser on it.
Yeah.
I mean, like the Dune movies, the Batman, several episodes of The Mandalorian, like Greg Fraser has just has this eye.
When you know your craft, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Give 110%. This guy. Unreal.
I have not been able to erase the image of Paul and Fade Rotha squaring up from my mind.
Oh my gosh. And Fade Rotha, the casting though for that, my God, who could have ever, I was taken aback by that performance. Just absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah. No, that was slam dunk casting. I've been watching so many interviews of Austin Butler talking about bringing that performance to life. Talking about how he was working with a dialect coach to help him like replicate Stellan Skarsgård's, tone and cadence as Baron Harkonnen. Like God, I love it. He's so good, and he's my type of scumbag in a movie. Like
you just hate to love him.
I know. There's just this like quiet, sinister, just like he makes my skin crawl, and I love it.
Yeah,
he makes the best choices as an actor. He makes so many of like the best choices. Like people have been memeing it to death. I was joking about it with my girlfriend before I got on, that like the scene that's getting the most memes, aside from just as it was written, that's like every single one of those, but like the individual, that exchange with like the "May thy blade chip and shatter," "May thy blade chip and shatter," that I was talking to Taylor. I was like, as a layman to the books, I love the idea that like that little salute, exchange, that it can mean that, like, you can read it as "thy" in the first person. Like, "May my blade chip and shatter" is kind of a wishing good luck to the other guy,
It's a
to
very
be,
honorable thing. It's a
yeah.
very honorable thing
And
to a
it
very deep extent.
and
Yeah.
am I right in that interpretation, that it's like, "Hey, good luck, I'm gonna have to kill you, but hopefully I don't have to. Maybe it breaks. We'll see." Like, is that what it's supposed to mean? Because that's what makes Fade Rotha's response great. Is that he
Yeah.
takes that and goes, "No, may your blade chip and shatter, my friend. I'm gonna kill your ass." Because that's how I interpreted that, and it's just such a phenomenal exchange. Um, I the fight choreography, especially for Fade Rotha, like it's you watch so many of the characters throughout these two movies, and I'm a junkie for fight choreography and can talk about that for hours on end. And the way that, like, good fight choreography tells you so much about a character. Like the way that they fight,
Yeah.
the way that they
Mhm,
scrap
mhm.
says so much about them. And that, you see so much of this very clean
Mhm.
and, to a degree honorable, you know, fighting among almost everybody in the franchise. Even some of the Harkonnens, with Dave Bautista's, that like there is like that there's a cleanness, there's a precision to
Yeah.
it. you know
Precision, yes. Like sportsman-like, I think you could argue Harkonnens are much less sportsman-like.
Oh, no, no, of course. I mean, I just mean, like,
Yeah,
in general, that like there
right.
is a certain,
There's
like,
such precision, and it's because of the precision in the training of the royal families is mainly due to the shields,
yeah,
uh,
you
because
can't
you
hit
have to
too
be
hard
so
because you'll
right.
it'll
But
bounce off.
in the books, they emphasize when Paul's learning to fight in the desert with the Fremen, like it takes him a lot of effort to untrain himself to not hesitate right before contact and slow down, because that split second is what's going to get you killed. Because the Fremen don't wear shields.
Yeah, but like when you take that and you translate it to Fade Rotha, that
Hmm.
like, again, that elegance, that precision is gone. He's a fucking wild animal.
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
he fights the way you'd expect somebody with like like a big knife or a small sword. Like they're all
Yeah.
verging. They're like on in that middle ground.
Mhm.
Big ass knife, small ass sword. Um, that like there is none of that very like tight, like like it's none of this like grapply, tight, in your face stuff. He just comes at you like you just let a rabid dog off of its leash, and like
Name
that.
it, name it. I know you want to lightsaber form. Go ahead.
No, he's Juya, man.
There you go.
This is a dyed in the wool Juya user, man. Like, come on. Come
Yeah.
on. This is a Juya user that McDarth Maul blush.
Yeah.
Cut me a
And
break.
I would argue that most of what would you think I'm gonna say is most of the Atreides form?
I think we're gonna disagree.
I'm
I
gonna go with
think
Sarisu.
you're gonna. I know you were gonna say Sarisu, and here's why I think it's Gem So. I think that it is based so much around counter offense, that it is that where Sarisu is like so very much like, trying to be a defensive stonewall. The the Gemso maxim of like peace through superiors firepower, that it's like, okay, like my blocks are counterattacks. I'm
Mm,
not actively
all
trying to
right.
just defend against you. I'm trying to repel you and then
Okay.
press my own attack.
I concede. That's a good point. I concede.
Like, I do not see Gurney Halleck
Yeah.
fighting like Obi-Wan
No,
Kenobi.
absolutely not. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. Sorry, I devolved the conversation again.
No, it's okay. Yeah, Joel's like, hey, watch me press this button and get Jarod on.
I knew it had to be mentioned at least once, but
yeah. I'm not gonna say it didn't cross my mind that I watched Fade Rotha. I'm like, Julia,
oh, hey, sorry. Before I forget again, I've been trying to get this thought out for a while. Something you had mentioned earlier was about the undying devotion of I'm blanking. I'm having a blank.
The Fremen?
The Fremen leader guy.
Stilgar.
Yeah, thank you. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah, so Stilgar, the thing is in the books he's not, I mean he is very devoted to Paul, but he constantly challenges him mentally and in his leadership to like he's like with eye contact, he's not confrontational, but he's still the mentor to a certain extent, and in this book you'll see memes all over the internet about like Stilgar in the books versus Stilgar in the movie, and it's like, oh, I'll do anything, I'll die for you, and it's just that emphasis is not in the book.
I think it that makes sense, but again, like translating this to a visual medium in film, I almost feel like you have to switch that around. Like again, I think it's why Chani saying, "Yeah, no, I'm not down with this," works so well, that you can have people who are like, "I don't buy into the whole Islam Al Ghalib thing." That like you get to, and I think you show how powerful the Messiah myth is, because we see how forthright and strong-willed Stilgar is in Dune Part 1. That he is.
I don't think you can call it a myth.
I mean, the Messiah myth in terms of just like myth as a concept, like the archetype.
Okay, the true term myth, not the false nature of the fact that.
Yeah. I mean, and again, I think you and I are at an impasse as to whether or not Paul is truly a Messiah. I think you and I are at an impasse.
I'm saying it's more complex than that, and I don't want to put a specific pinpoint that it's false or true based off of how, like, just because a prophecy is placed doesn't mean that prophecy is going to act out every single moment as it is. Like, and then you have the fact that prophecy was based off of prescience, and that prescience just because it was foreseen doesn't mean that it was any less true. So there's a lot more at play there.
Okay, pause on that. Finish my point on Stilgar, because we're gonna go down that. I'm about to. Mm-hmm. I want to get into that.
We're all over the place. I hope you're all sticking with us on this one.
But like, I think taking Stilgar, who like at no point does he, like when he first meets with Leto, he comes in, he refuses to take his Chris knife off his belt.
It's sacred. Yes,
it's sacred. Comes in, spits on the table. Everybody draws their swords. He does not explain himself. He lets Duncan do the talking. Like, Stilgar is so unapologetically Fremen.
Oh yeah, he's rigid. He's a rigid character.
He makes no apologies for his culture and the fact that he is not going to abate his culture by like coming in and going, okay, I guess I'll give you my knife, and hey, I'm gonna spit on the table. It's me showing you that I respect you by giving you my moisture. Like, he just does his thing. And I think that taking someone who has that level of like being so firmly rooted in his people's culture to then show how devoted and how much he buys into the idea of the Isan al-Ghalib, that it goes a long way of showing like this is how real this is to a lot of people, that is then very nicely juxtaposed by Chani. And I think that one of the things that makes Chani such a great character, that like they really hit out of the park between her and Zendaya's performance within the text, is showing that it's like she is in love with Paul because of his resilience and his bravery and his understanding of his place in the world and willingness to play ball, and how he gives himself over to the Fremen culture and is so happy to do so, and is like, I am here. He's like, I want to take on the Harkonnens. You want to take on the Harkonnens. And I do think he sincerely assimilates into Fremen culture. And it is that willingness, and it is that resilience, and it is that indomitable spirit that Chani falls in love with. That when that is replaced with Messiah pilled Paul, you know, Annie, you're going down a path I can't follow. You know.
So, but that I have a huge problem with this plot development, because in the books, and I know I'm doing a lot of arguments based off the books, but in the books, she is so much more supportive of the burden that he has to bear, and understanding of how important it is that this is the path that must be taken for the survival of their people, and that, you know, Paul becomes like Stilgar to every extent. You know, he becomes so devoted and dedicated to the Fremen people, and the idea that the Fremen, you know, it is what is done for all. That mentality is, it rings so true through Paul through the entire novel. And the fact that he gives up everything for the transformation of his what I'll call his political world. He sacrifices his political standing and becomes Fremen. He becomes wholly and unapologetically, like Stilgar, Fremen, where he does not identify anymore as an Atreides. And then he gets to the point where he's like, oh, I realize now that the only way through this is this one way. He explains this to Chani and is like, I'm sorry, but like, this is what needs to happen. And Chani's like, okay, I understand. I'm not going to like it. We've already had a kid together.
Yeah, and again, I think that I understand. I think you have, and this isn't like a diminishing of your take here. I think that you have a connection and, for lack of a better term, loyalty to their relationship as depicted in the book.
Oh yeah,
That
absolutely. And
her
I
having
understand
like,
it's bias.
and yeah, and sure, I mean, you know, art is not objective. There is no version of this that you can inextricably link from how something made you feel, especially when it's an adaptive work.
Yeah.
You know, it's the difference between, again, Star Wars comparison number 3 or 4. You know, like in one of the original drafts of Revenge of the Sith, Padme went to Mustafar to kill Anakin.
Mm-hmm.
In one of the original drafts of that screenplay, there's concept art out there, and it's striking and it's tragic, where like you see Anakin in his robes with his hood up, and you see Padme facing him, and like the camera, as it were, like you can see her back and Anakin's front, and you see she's holding a dagger. That she has every intention of, like, when they embrace, to pop him. That, you know, so the like the difference there is, again, I think that I like, having not read it, on paper, in concept, I think I like this iteration of Chani more. I think I like the idea of seeing resistance to Paul's, for lack of a better term, corruption.
I think she's being critical and is hurt. And I think that it is a good emphasis in its own right. It's not the original way. I don't think it has anything that makes me particularly upset with the path, as long as the outcome of that path is going back to the conflict that arises as a consequence of that. I'm trying not to spoil it in the next book. There's a conflict that arises as a consequence of their love, of Paul and Chani's love and their devotion to one another. That is very important to the plot development of Dune Messiah.
Okay. Well, with that, as any of you saw Star Wars Explained, no, my glasses are broken, so I can't see shit. So we're about an hour in.
Hour 5.
You wanna? Okay. Do we have anything else you want to talk about before we start talking about like what is on the horizon for this story, for this narrative?
I have one thing to say.
Yeah.
Okay. We've touched on almost all my points. I just want to go back to Dune 1 for a second and say the only reason I did not rate it a 10 out of 10 is because of that stupid training scene with Gurney Halleck and Paul. When Gurney Halleck says, the slow blade penetrates the shield. Like, you did not need to tell me that. That was perfectly demonstrated. And it drove me up a wall.
I love that scene, and I am gonna push back and say the slow blade penetrates the shield. I think is more of them talking about like the metaphor of what's about to happen to House Atreides than it is him explaining the obvious technology to Paul. I think that is one of those lines that's there more to like
it was
drive home
malplaced.
a motific development than it is.
It was malplaced if that were the case.
Touche.
It could have been a little bit more further in that scene where it was more relevant to that conversation where he was like, you don't really understand the gravity of the situation or whatever he says, you know what I'm saying?
Josh Brolin's so fucking good in these movies, by the way.
Oh yeah.
I cannot get his line delivery is so good. I want to bottle that. Like it's like there is a specific tempo to every single Gurney Halleck line.
Well, but it fits his character.
It's so good.
He's the minstrel of the, you know, him and his instrument, and
yeah,
I can't remember what it's called, but yeah.
These movies are so well cast.
Oh,
I
know I was being super critical so far as to all these, you know, all these little nitpicky things that were different from the movie, the book and the movie, but I just cannot get over the fact that I left that theater absolutely stunned with what was portrayed on scene. And I do not get chills in movies or at all easily. I got chills every time Paul was in, like, near the middle to late of the movie when he finally became the Messiah, the Lisan al-Gaib. When he's up on the cliff top and he screams I can't remember
for the
exactly.
fighters, yeah.
Like that moment got me chills when he was in the Fremen, when he was first challenging the Fremen leaders for the first time, claiming to be the Messiah. Oh my gosh, I just couldn't. It was so amazing. It really, I'm so invested in the storyline that I just couldn't. I left that theater stunned.
See, it's so funny, you know, especially because you haven't been on in a hot minute. The opposite ends of the spectrum in this conversation of, oh, I never get chills in a movie versus it's become a meme how much I cry when I watch movies.
Yeah,
like
I mean,
like the way that pendulum like all the way to the other end of the last episode of Knights of the Nerd Republic. We were joking about how when Phantom Menace gets re-released in May, about telling a story about how my girlfriend was trying to figure out exactly how many times and at what points in the movie I will cry.
I mean,
and how
honestly,
I sobbed for the entire last 20 minutes of Return of the Jedi when we saw it in the theater last year.
Mm-hmm.
The entire last 20 minutes of that movie.
I'm not saying, you know, but see, that's the thing. It's like there's a difference between emotions in that respect, being emotionally moved, and then getting chills for me is something different. Like
Yeah.
it's an inner excitement and passion that just goes beyond just crying. Like I will be moved more often than not these days. I mean, I'm at my wit's end often emotionally. Like so like it doesn't take me much to just break out in tears.
Joel's like,
But
listen,
like
man,
chills,
I'll
man.
cry like a motherfucker. I am stressed.
You know that Tom Holland meme where it's like, I don't cry that often. Uh, I I don't really. I mean, I cried. I cried a lot last week. I mean, I cry a lot. like the
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that's where I'm at. It's like I've gotten to that point. But chills, it's a different story, man. I don't know.
It was just funny just because I know like the last episode of this podcast feed is Jarod cried for 20 straight minutes watching a movie he's seen 1,000 times, all the way to I
Mhm.
don't get chills that often. This is very funny. I started sobbing in the car with Taylor the other day. You know that one page on Instagram where it's like the cute dinosaurs.
Yeah, of course,
You know what I'm talking about? Like that's like Dino Couch or whatever. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
of
Like the
course.
red and blue dinosaur. I saw one of the, and I send them to Taylor all the time.
Mhm.
I was on my phone in the car, read one, and burst into tears in the car. And she's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "These dinosaurs are so cute. They remind me of us." And I'm like again, like I just
It's so
again,
funny.
it's again just I don't get
Yeah,
chills all the way to cries through the entire last 20 minutes of Return to the
it
Jedi.
really it depends on the hour of the day.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Anyways, where were we?
We were going to talk about the what's on the horizon here.
Yeah.
So if you plan on
What is
reading the
on the
books,
horizon?
if you plan on reading the books, if you don't want to know what might be coming in the next chapter, like, comment, share, subscribe, patreon.com/the Nerd Academy podcast. Submit your brackets to the versus stream. Okay.
Submit them.
I gave him time to leave. All right. So from what I understand, there is a considerable time. It's like 12 years, right?
I don't know the exact, but it's considerable. He's supposed to be much older. Let's see. Dune Messiah, Paul age. Let's see. He's that's not
What did you get?
it didn't make any sense. It's like Paul is 15. I'm like, that's not what I asked. That's that's
Well, because if I understand
not
correctly, because I've been seeing a lot of like, here's the chronology of Dune. It's been very like, it's Dune, and then there's like a 12-year gap. There's a book about the Holy War Paul wages, and then it's Messiah, and then Children of Dune is like far flung, like several thousand years from Messiah to Children of Dune.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so after a pee break and some math,
Yeah, 12
we were
years.
right. I
Okay.
was right. It is
Yeah,
12 years between Dune and Dune Messiah.
yeah. So like what was the question though?
What are you looking forward to see adapted from Messiah? Like what are we looking forward
Oh.
to like within that narrative?
Well, I'll tell you something off camera later. Um, there's a lot of development of Ali as a character. Um, a lot of development. How much spoiler? Okay, everyone who doesn't want to hear spoilers about Messiah, you gotta leave.
I'm going to tell you right now, I think it's going to be bigger than a 12-year time jump. I think for the movies, I think it's
You
going to
think?
be longer so that they can justify
Um,
Anya Taylor-Joy.
no, but Ali is like 20s, like 20 years old in the.
But she's already been born. So 12
Oh,
years would justify. So that's what I'm saying. I think it's going to be a little longer
so
than
it's going to
12
be 20
years.
years so that they can get to the actual timeline that it's supposed to be for Alia.
Yeah, so it can be I think they'll adjust it to accommodate Alia growing up and looking like Anya Taylor-Joy.
Gotcha. Yeah. Which, by the way, I can't say I'm like the biggest fan of that casting, but I'm not upset by it. Like I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
I love Anya Taylor-Joy.
It's one of those moments for me. It's like that's not what I had imagined in my head as the casting, and I have to realize that now I have to like adjust my brain. Next time I'll read it, I'll imagine her in my head. But anyways, yeah, it's gonna be probably a 20-year jump.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. I mean, it'll be weird. I'm not weird, but like it'll be interesting because like they're gonna keep Chalamet.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, they're gonna keep all those people. So I'm excited to see how they justify like Timothy Chalamet still looks like Timothy Chalamet, but this baby is Anya Taylor-Joy now. But it's not like people have accepted bizarre time age scaling in movies like this before.
I mean, you're also
not to invoke Star Wars a sixth time, but
I don't know. They might alter the mechanics a little bit of Alia, because as of right now, you already have Alia's mind being a grown person. It wouldn't be too far-fetched to put a little spice magic into it,
like
where like she just grows up
advanced
quicker.
aging.
Yeah.
Like she's 12, but she might as well be 25.
Yeah.
Or I can get down with that.
I wouldn't be upset by it.
Sure. This is one of those things like, oh yeah,
and to be frank with you, I mean, Alia is Paul's sister. So it's not like,
Yeah. I just mean that, trying to find a way that like Timothy, that Paul would logically still look like Timothy Chalamet, who is like not even 30 yet. Like he's like, he made a joke on the red carpet. He's like, I'm pushing 30. I think he's only a couple years older than us.
So anyways, going back to the story here for a second. What to look forward to from Dune Messiah in an adaptation is going to be mostly focused on Paul as the Emperor dealing with the consequences, the emotional, moral consequences of the jihad and the holy war, because a lot of Messiah is him kind of battling that internally. So following Aaliyah and her place as quite similarly a Messiah-like, prophet-like position.
Yeah, I mean, she's in like what is ostensibly a holy bloodline.
Yeah, she becomes a holy figure, if you will, a worshipped figure head.
Yeah.
She becomes kind of a figure. She replaces Jessica as the mother of the.
Oh, so she becomes the Reverend Mother.
But she becomes the Reverend Mother of all Fremen, if I'm not mistaken.
Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah. So she becomes like quite a figurehead. So that's a journey in its own right. You have Paul's journey as the Emperor, dealing with the consequences emotionally, but also there's a lot of political unrest that goes into Dune Messiah. A lot of plotting. The plotting continues. And consequences of that.
Do we get more play from the royal the other like high families? Because like I'm assuming the Harkonnens are pretty much neutralized at this point.
I can't recall it touching much on the great houses at all, to be honest.
Because I know like obviously the Baron's out of the picture. Fade Rotha's down. I mean, obviously, like Fade Rotha, like sired a child with that one Bene Gesserit.
I'm pretty sure the Holy War ended the Great Houses, but I'm not 100% on that.
Okay, I wasn't sure. Now that you say that, I'm pretty sure that's what I was like reading, was that like in that, because there's like, from what I understand, there's Dune, and then Dune Messiah, but Frank Herbert's kid wrote a book called Paul of Dune. This is the Holy War. That's kind of like an in-between, like if Dune is Attack of the Clones and Dune Messiah is Revenge of the Sith, Paul of Dune is the Clone Wars. And that is the like fall of the great houses and whatnot.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like I can't remember if they were deconstructed, but they were definitely dominated. Like the Holy War was definitely like, I am the emperor and I will kill anyone who changes their, who goes against me kind of thing mentality.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that it's going to be interesting though, because there's not a lot of content that's really it's more of a drama. I would call the not Dune Messiah more of like a drama than an action packed.
Than an epic, yeah.
So I don't know. Like I would market it more as like an accessory movie than an actual continuation. But it's all, I mean, there is some action in the middle near the latter end of the movie, but I don't know. I would equate it more like a James Bond movie.
Yeah, it's more of a political thriller than like a biblical epic.
Yeah. Which in its own right is going to be interesting, but it's going to be different than 2. Like, do not go into 3 expecting what you got from 2, because you're not going to get it.
I'm down for that.
Unless Denis Villeneuve is like, oh, you thought we were going to Dune Messiah? No, we're going to do the Holy War.
Well, he said that his plan is to do the first book is 2 films and then Messiah, and that he does not.
I wouldn't put it past him to actually do some of the Holy War.
Oh, to meld Paul of Dune and Dune Messiah.
Yeah, like to really, because there are like flashbacks to the Holy War that could be integrated into to Paul's like inner conflict kind of stuff. I wonder if it would be like a back and forth kind of like him being in the Holy War versus him being now the the full emperor and all that. And I think that would be interesting. Denis Villeneuve, if you're watching, please do that. I'm your biggest fan.
Well, I'm very excited for it. This movie was incredible. Just to touch on one other
Absolutely.
thing that we didn't mention, just the stuff on the Harkonnen homeworld. Just again, Greg Fraser. Damn.
Yeah.
Just damn.
Yeah.
So cool.
So cool. And like the monochromatics.
Yeah. Well, that was something because I thought, just again from the trailers, like when you see the stuff with Fade Rotha fighting on, was it Gaiety Prime is the name of the Gaiety Prime?
Well, yeah, Gaiety Prime is the Harkonnen homeworld. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when you see him in the Coliseum on Gaiety Prime, I assumed it was black and white because it was a flashback. I did not realize that it has like a black star as its sun.
Yeah.
And that was how that like, and it's only during nightfall and when they're inside is when things are in color.
Mm-hmm.
So cool.
It's pretty crazy. But it was so cool. The transition and like, okay, the weird fireworks though.
Yeah, like the Rorschach test looking fireworks.
That's pretty cool.
It's so good, man. This movie's incredible. I can't wait to get more into this. I can't wait to watch it again. I think really
I'm going this weekend to watch it again. Yeah, I got an exam on Friday, so it's gonna be my gift to myself to go again.
Well, Joel, may thy blade chip and shatter for your exam. Where can unless you have any final thoughts before we wrap this up? For audio listeners, I did the thing with my water bottle.
What was the question?
Any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
Final thoughts. Go watch it. If you haven't seen it, go watch it.
If you haven't seen it, I don't know what the fuck you're doing here. I don't
yeah. If you made it this far and you're hearing me say this, like you've made a mistake. Okay, I'm just saying. It is so phenomenal. I have put it at the top of my list. And I know Jarod, that I'm very, very weird in my ratings of movies.
Yes.
Okay. This movie was cinematically amazing. It was the writing was amazing. The acting was phenomenal. every single aspect that went into my grading system went, this is a 10 out of 10 movie. 10 out of 10 movie. And I do not have any 10 out of 10 movies on my IMDb rating list.
Man, get off IMDb and get on Letterboxd.
Is that the thing now? Letterboxd?
Dude, Letterboxd is so much fun. I love Letterboxd.
But man, if you're not as passionate about this as I am, then I don't know what movie you saw, because it was just so enthralling.
I will say, I think that just to do a brief acknowledgement of the discourse, I've seen a lot of people realize that Dune is one of the many things that inspired Star Wars, and I've seen this really bizarre discourse where people are like, "Well, Dune is better than Star Wars because Dune was first, and this is different than Star Wars," and I think that's incredibly reductive.
Yeah,
in a word,
it doesn't play into the complexity of the actual discussion or the discourse here. Like, I irrelevant of Star Wars and the interplay between the two, I definitely feel that this Dune series is going to be up there in one of the most amazing and epic movies and movie series that we have. Up there with Lord of the Rings, up there with Star Wars. Now Dune is there. Okay, I truly believe that.
I am inclined to agree with you. I am inclined to believe you to agree that this is a generational.
Oh yes,
cinematic
This is a I'm saving my ticket stub movie. Okay,
show your kids. I was there opening weekend for Dune Part 2.
Exactly. I almost threw it out. I was like, nah, I can't do that shit.
Well, I don't know. I think my issue with these weird Star Wars comparisons, and again, it's not like you can't the Sand People, the Tusken Raiders are obviously a very, 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 very watered down Fremen. They both have devices. They both have gigantic tankers called sand crawlers. There is a chosen one from the desert. There are a lot of surface level things that sure, and that's the joke. George Lucas is the greatest plagiarist who ever lived. The thing is that Lucas was very talented at taking. I'm going to take a bit of Herbert. I'm going to take a bit of Joseph Campbell. I'm going to take a bit of Kurosawa.
There is no such thing as original thought.
Sure. What I'm getting at is that you're comparing hard sci-fi to something that is unabashedly a fairy tale that happens to take place in space.
That's
always been my thing. Is when people talk about sci-fi and they bring up Star Wars and they're like, well, Star Wars doesn't get into these ideas that sci-fi does. I'm like, well, it does. It plays with it sometimes, but for the most part, this is a fairy tale that has laser swords instead of steel swords.
If you're getting into the nitty gritty of sand crawlers and Tusken Raiders versus some random other book, you're missing 90% of the actual plot.
Yeah.
There's a difference between inspiration and plagiarism. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And I jokingly call Lucas a plagiarist because, again, you can, there are several Akira Kurosawa movies that you can go, oh, that's Star Wars, but Lucas never hid that either. George Lucas constantly talked about how much he loves Akira Kurosawa, how much he read Joseph Campbell and, the Monomyth and Hero of a Thousand Faces and all of the Jungian stuff there. It's all there and he's never hid it. I just, the conversation is very similar to how I feel about Andor. I think Andor is an incredible masterwork of fiction, and there are a lot of people who go, Andor is so good that it makes every other piece of Star Wars look bad, and I think that's incredibly fucking reductive, and it infuriates me. It incenses me if you're incapable of looking. If it requires Star Wars to go to a darker, grimmer, less fantastical place for you to take it seriously, I don't think it's a story for you. If you get what you put in, I am a firm believer if you get what you put in out of fiction, and if you can't, if you boil down something like The Mandalorian to it's the Baby Yoda show, and don't look at it as the story of a diaspora of a warrior culture that has had its place in the galaxy shattered hundreds of times over the last thousands of years, and that like it's people picking up the pieces and rediscovering what what faith and family means to them. Like, if you boil that down to the Baby Yoda show, you're not qualified to be talking about fucking Dune. Like, it's like, yeah, I don't know what else to tell you. And if again, like, the conversations around Dune is it's Star Wars but good, it infuriates me because I also hate when people pit two different stories against each other
when they're so
and
completely different.
well, they're so completely different, but like there's just a really bad faith nature people have to praise something by virtue of ripping the other thing apart.
Mhm.
Like, for example, like the conversations I've seen being had about, how did Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania have a bigger budget than Dune, but Dune is so much better? Because they had to reshoot a shit ton of it. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know why I don't know. I do not know what productive conversation and what meaningful conversation can be had about this movie costs more money but is bad. This movie costs less money but is good, actually. That means Marvel stuff bad. I hate these conversations so much.
Yeah,
It is so profoundly reductive. And when I hear people
gotcha.
having them, I question whether or not they are capable of like actually appreciating something like Dune. Because
Like,
it feels like,
just appreciate the movie for what it is. Look at the movie. Don't compare it to other things. If it's a good movie, it's a good movie. Like at the most basic level, if I went into the theater and I came out satisfied that I got what at a bare minimum that I got what the ticket was worth out of it, I'm satisfied. A little entertainment, great. Like, that's the level of what I'm looking for in film usually. But this was like, I would have paid $100 for that ticket. I'm like, okay, I'm just saying.
but yeah, Dune is incredible. I can't wait for Messiah. I'll be playing the video game when it comes out. Um, so yeah, Joel, where can
Yeah,
the lovely people find you, my friend?
I
Not
don't
like you're
even know.
super, not that you're super even on social media to begin with.
I honestly, it's been so long
It's we're
that
at the.
I don't even know.
I mean, we just skip over Spencer during this segment at this
It's
point too.
at Jay the Sentinel on Twitter. Well, it's not Twitter anymore.
Oh, it's
We had
Twitter.
this discussion earlier.
It's Twitter. I'm not calling it X.
This
I'll,
place,
yeah.
it's not showing up. But X,
No.
that app that
Nope.
I'm never
Nope.
on.
I'm using my executive powers. We do not call it X on this fucking show.
So at Jay the Sentinel, you can find me there. You can also find me on Instagram at probably at Jay the Sentinel as well. For some cosplay stuff occasionally, but that's
Yeah.
really just for the
Yeah.
podcast, so you all
Yeah.
can DM me or
Joel
contact me or whatever.
Joel has not donned his Luke Skywalker outfit in a minute.
Actually, I
No, actually, you
did.
did for
You
Halloween.
did.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
You
sent
went.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
You had like
went
a little Grogu with you and everything,
to
right?
the office. I went to the office in my Luke Skywalker outfit, and everyone else in the office got the memo that they were doing a Barbie day. And
This Ken's job is Jedi.
the clinic man, I'll call them, the clinic manager was in Ken. He was the only male on staff other than me, and all the other ones were Barbies. And
He was counting on another Ken, but this Ken's
and I
job
just
is
show
Jedi.
up in my Luke Skywalker outfit.
Cloak, Grogu, lightsaber on the belt, everything, folks. It was the
It was so
whole
funny.
kit and caboodle.
It was so funny.
You make such a good Luke, though. It's uncanny.
Thank you. But yeah,
I was waiting to see if you were going to throw it to me or if I was just.
so hey, Jared, where can the people find you? Oh, hey, also go to our website at thenerdacademypodcast.com.
I do that at the end.
I know.
Hold
I
your
was just
horses,
messing with
kid.
you.
Yeah.
Hey, Jared, where can the lovely people find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at DarkJedi2552. And you can find the Nerd Academy podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, wherever you get podcasts, and on our website, thenerdacademypodcast.com, where if you want to get your hands on some TNAP merch, you can go ahead and click that student store link.
T-shirtpublic.com.
I'm sorry, you can't get this one.
Yeah, I was going to say, I got that one custom made for Joel, but you can get a mug with our logo on it.
You can get this one.
Just not with the world's best producer thing. And if you're feeling generous, you can donate to our Patreon.
Hey, give me $1.
Speaking of our patrons, thank you to our $10 alumnus, Keandre Lloyd.
Colin Provolone. Sir.
So good.
Steal yourself, Colin! Steal yourself!
This is me stealing myself.
To Paco, aka ChatGPT.
Right, ladies and gentlemen.
From the front lines of the information war, it's Alex Jones.
And to Ray Clausen, who asks that you help keep queer kids safe in the Lone Star State by donating to Equality Texas. Folks, as I said, the Versus Series Season 4 tournament is coming up this coming Tuesday. This episode will be dropped on Friday the 7th. You will have about 4 or 5 days to submit your brackets to nerdacademypod@gmail.com. That is nerdacademypod@gmail.com with the subject line versus bracket. So that you can enter into our competition to see if you will win some free TNAP merch. I plan to do like a t-shirt, some stickers, and like maybe a mug. I'm not sure yet. But you get a nice little TNAP care package on us. Shout out to $5 patron Charlotte. I'm pretty sure she's won 2 years in a row. So I think it's time somebody unseats her. I think it's time. Maybe. I don't know. Charlotte's been really good at these goddamn tournaments. But check that out. There will be, hopefully, assuming we actually get to record next week, there'll be a new episode of Ionized Bastards out next week on Friday. Planning to record. We won't be recording on Tuesday, will we? So hopefully we're recording on Monday. But stay tuned for that. More Ionized Bastards coming down the pipeline. Very, very excited. We're at a very cool place this season so far. In fact, I'm going to tell Joel a fun story he hasn't heard about Ionized Bastards. So, in the not the most recent, but about 2 episodes ago, at the end of the episode, we're in this big. It's like Mad Max pod racing, okay, where there's like fighters on the pods. And if you like eliminate the crew on the other side, they're eliminated, or you take out the pilot, they're eliminated. The Ionized Bastards, the team is getting ready to cross the finish line in first place. We're about to win. We cross the finish line. Pod gets taken out by a missile. Oh no, we get thrown all over the place. Out of nowhere lands this Mandalorian bounty hunter who starts shooting at Jerry the Cannon Junkie's character, a cuddly assassin droid named 4044. Starts unloading on 40. 40's on death's door. I get my turn. Alden and Dan buff the shit out of me, and I just lay into this Mandalorian, just slicing at him with my lightsaber. Take him out. He now himself is on death's door. Now I go to interrogate this guy. Joel, if you were going to interrogate a Mandalorian, what's the first thing you're going to do?
Remove his armor.
Okay, I'll accept that. I took off his helmet.
I was gonna say that, I just didn't want to because it felt like it was too obvious.
No, so I go to take off his helmet. Now, as I take off his helmet, Michael, our DM, as this character whose name is Drock Wraith, starts going, no. And I go, Oh, he's a child of the watch. Cool. Excellent world building from Michael. Interrogate this guy, whatever. Now, Taylor, my girlfriend, love her. She loves Ionized Bastards. It's her favorite show. She calls it her program. It's very cute. I'm not her favorite character, by the way, which is deeply funny to me. But finish the episode. We're hanging out. We're talking. And Taylor's like, it was really fucked up you ripped off that guy's helmet. I was like, what do you mean? She was like, you like violated like his whole cultural thing by doing that. And I was like, I didn't know he was a child of the watch. For all I knew, he was like a Bo-Katan type.
Right.
Shit comes on and off all the time. I had like a 50-50 chance of knowing. I never would have thought it was a child of the watch. And she's like, even if it was a Bo-Katan type, that's still wildly inappropriate. So what ends up happening is about an hour-long play fight between us, where we were like kind of like ha ha ha, jokey, going back and forth about the ethics of me ripping off a Mandalorian's helmet to interrogate him. At almost exactly the 1 hour mark of her and I having this tete-a-tete, her whole demeanor changes. And she gets gravely serious. She goes full lawyer mode on me. Just grievously serious, looks me in my eyes and goes, Jarod, you took away a man's right to go to heaven. Now, Joel, you've known me a long time. You know that I always have some shit to say.
What did you say?
I always have a retort.
What did you say?
You
should have just shut up.
I am always able to deflect. Yeah, I had nothing. I had nothing for her.
That's when you walk away.
I just stood there standing in our living room with my jaw hanging.
Yeah. That's what you call it.
I had no retort. You took away a man's right to go to heaven.
Well, he could just go to the well in Mandalore.
Here's the thing. The Ionized Bastards takes place like 3-4 years before the Mandalorian takes place.
So they think it's gone.
So he thinks Mandalore is poisoned. So he has no way of bathing in the living waters.
Well, that was a good run.
Yeah, I was like,
I need to go kill myself now.
Yeah. Now, to find out what happens to this piece of shit Mandalorian who's right to go to heaven, I took away. Watch Ionized Bastards on the All Remaining Systems YouTube channel. Other things we're involved with, Epic Confrontations. Kaysen and I have a match coming up in April. We're going head-to-head with the dastardly Alden Diaz and Michael McCoy, Big Chungus themselves. I'm back in the teams division. My ban from teams has now been lifted after I lost to Scotty last year. So I'm back in the teams division, and I'm going to be making my team's debut with Kaysen Breon and our new team, the Jedi Lords, going head-to-head with Big Chungus. And then I also have a match in May that will dictate whether or not I get a number one contender shot. So if I win this match in May, I get a chance at a number one contender shot. And if I win that, your boy is on the fast track to becoming the second Epic Confrontations champion. Joel's thinking things. What are you thinking, Joel?
You got a couple losses on your docket there.
You're not even on Twitter.
You think I don't see them?
Okay. All right. I didn't think I'd have to have this conversation with my best friend. I am 4 wins, 2 losses. 3 of my wins have been by way of knockout.
Seems like you lost 2 though. I'm sorry.
I can't believe you. I am so betrayed right now. I know how Chani felt.
You don't know shit.
But yeah, check out
Well,
Epic Confrontations. Very exciting stuff coming. Like I said, Casey and I have a teams match. I have a singles match against Brendan Marr, former first class league champion. So I'll be going head to head with somebody who's held a belt before. So time to silence any people who doubt my acumen real quick. So tune in for that over at the Star Wars in a Galaxy YouTube channel. And like I said, Ionized Bastards on all remaining systems. So yeah, thank you all, hiccups, so very much for watching and listening. And class dismissed.
Stop! Move away from the cookie jar!
You have a couple of losses on your record. You step in the ring, Joel.